name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. If you haven't read the book of Job, it's not an easy book to read, but I encourage you to do so. The part that we have referenced today is toward the end of Job's journey conversation with God and with friends of his. And Job grows in having a conversation with God that is at the superficial level, that is about worldly understanding and people coming and going and things that happen that may be considered important on a day-to-day sense, but in the big scheme of things is really small. Doesn't mean that it's not important to God, but it's small in the big scope of things. Through the Gospels, we have people talking to Jesus and asking Jesus for various things. Most recently, we heard about James and John. Remember when they asked him if they can sit at his right and left hand when he comes into his seat of glory? And Jesus says, you don't understand what you're asking for. Peter proclaims Jesus as the Christ rightly. And we think that Peter understands it, but then when Jesus starts to teach about how he has to be betrayed and suffer and be crucified and die, Peter says, no, that can't happen to you. And Jesus says, stop. Because Peter doesn't understand what he's really talking about. You and I don't understand all the time what we're talking about. The rich man that Jesus encounters comes to Jesus and says, what do I have to do to gain eternal life? And Jesus thinks and says, sell everything that you have. And the rich man is sad. We have the opportunity to talk to the creator of the universe. Jesus has made that connection for us. We have that open pathway to God. And God is listening. Jesus is listening. We each have had our own journeys. We have all sorts of individual circumstances. But Jesus is asking us, just like he asked the blind beggar, what is it that you want me to do for you? I have a friend who probably still does, but always at least used to ask God for the right parking place. And she would drive around. God cares. We ask God for all sorts of things that I could name, that you could name, that we would probably laugh about and shake our heads. And again, it doesn't mean that God doesn't care and God's not listening. But we have been given the most amazing opportunity. Jesus is saying to each one of us, tell me what it is that I can do for you. And he's asking us what it is that we need, and only we know. Each of us only knows for ourselves. What is it that you need to be able to understand that you are God's beloved? What is it that you need to be able to throw off your cloak like the blind beggar and run to Jesus because you know he's hearing you? What is it that you need to be able to know how to grow closer to God yourself and to be able to reach out to all of the people who you will encounter through your days to come? What is it that you need? That's what Jesus is asking each of us today. And that's not something that we should take lightly. Because if we ask for sight, man was blind. Jesus gave him sight. He didn't just fix his eyes. He gave him the eyes to see the world around him. He gave him the eyes that touches the heart, that we know is going to change us. So the question that we're being asked, we need to answer with faith, because it's only with faith that will we be able to see as much as we can see, to be able to accept the gift of whatever it is that we're asking for as much as we possibly can. Each one of you is being asked by God, what is it that you need? St. Mary's is being asked by God, what is it that you need? And the things that we ask in faith, we don't even know how they're going to be used. As I understand your history, you didn't know everything that was going to happen, the hurricane that was coming, and when you were laying the groundwork for Mary's table, you didn't know that there was going to be such need in this community. And yet, with faith, you knew that you were being called to prepare this, to get it set. God knew that that was going to happen. And with the faithfulness of being open to both hearing and then doing, you were ready. You were ready when there was need. St. Gregory's Pantry, I can't believe you knew the number of people who would be coming through the door. It has amazed me, that ministry, that gift to so many people. Starting small, just, we can do that. Well, it becomes we can do that. And that's all with God. IHN, the number of people who are now coming through, and we don't know all the gifts that we're giving. We don't need to. But the people who are being housed here in a temporary housing situation as they're trying to get their feet under them, we don't even know the hope and the encouragement and the stability, the safety that it's giving all who come through the doors. If we're here, God needs us. God needs every one of us to be doing whatever it is that we have the capacity, the ability, the gifts to do. And God knows that. God has called the people at St. Mary's who are here for a reason. It's not random. It's not accident. God needs everybody engaging with the gifts that you've been given, and you've been given so many gifts, to start to build them, and build with faith. You don't need to know how they're going to be used yet. Build with that faithfulness in the way that St. Mary's just does, because that's who you are. So I implore you, with the quietness in your own heart, to realize that Jesus is right here. Jesus is listening. Jesus is asking you what it is that you need as an individual and as St. Mary's to be able to throw off that cloak, to rejoice in the fact that you're God's beloved, and to take that however you are supposed to be taking it into the world, to share that good news. In Jesus' name.